My husband said I'd regret leaving, but I never looked back. Years later, his daughter knocked on my door, crying they kicked me out. "You're my only hope." I sipped my wine and smirked funny. That's exactly what I told them years ago. I met Robert during my sophomore year at the University of Georgia. He was the kind of guy who could walk into a room and instantly become the center of attention. Tall, with an athletic build, sandy blonde hair that always seemed perfectly tousled, and a smile that could disarm even the most guarded person. His confidence was infectious, and it wasn't long before I found myself drawn to him. We started dating, and our relationship quickly became the envy of our friends. He was attentive, always surprising me with little gestures, a handwritten note tucked into my backpack, spontaneous weekend getaways, or simply holding my hand under the table during group dinners. I felt cherished, believing I had found my forever in him. After graduation, Robert proposed during a sunset picnic by Lake Lanier. With tears streaming down my face, I said yes. We had a beautiful wedding in Savannah, surrounded by family and friends. Settling down in a charming suburban neighborhood in Atlanta, we purchased a modest two-story house with a white picket fence and a sprawling backyard perfect for future children to play in. Life felt like a dream. Robert secured a lucrative position at a prestigious marketing firm, while I took on a role as a junior editor at a local publishing house. Our combined incomes allowed us a comfortable lifestyle, filled with dinner parties, vacations, and plans for the future. A year into our marriage, we welcomed our daughter, Lily. From the moment she was born, she became the center of my universe. Her chubby cheeks, inquisitive eyes, and infectious giggles filled our home with joy. I decided to take a break from work to be a stay-at-home mom, wanting to be there for every milestone. Robert seemed supportive, often expressing his gratitude for my dedication to our family. However, as months turned into years, subtle changes began to creep into our relationship. Robert started working longer hours, often coming home late, citing client meetings or tight deadlines. Our once frequent date nights dwindled, replaced by evenings where he'd bury himself in his laptop or retreat to the basement to unwind. I tried to be understanding, attributing his distance to work stress. But the emotional gap between us widened. Conversations became superficial, limited to discussions about bills, Lily's school activities, or what to have for dinner. The intimacy we once shared felt like a distant memory. One evening, while folding laundry, I noticed a lipstick stain on the collar of one of Robert's shirts. My heart sank, but I brushed it off, convincing myself it was probably from an affectionate colleague or an accidental brush during a crowded commute. Denial became my coping mechanism. But the signs became harder to ignore. Unfamiliar perfume lingered on his clothes, he became overly protective of his phone, and there were unexplained charges on our credit card statements, dinners at upscale restaurants I hadn't been to, jewelry I never received. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I had taken Lily to the pediatrician and decided to surprise Robert at his office with lunch from his favorite deli. As I approached the glass doors of his firm, I saw him through the window, laughing intimately with a woman I recognized as his secretary, Claire. She touched his arm in a way that was far from professional, and he didn't pull away. My stomach churned, and a cold sweat enveloped me. I felt like an intruder in my own life, witnessing a scene I wasn't meant to see. That evening, after putting Lily to bed, I confronted Robert. I recounted what I had seen, the evidence I had gathered over the past months, and asked him point-blank if he was having an affair. He didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips, and said, "You're overreacting. Claire and I have a connection, yes, but it's harmless. Maybe if you paid more attention to our marriage instead of obsessing over Lily, we wouldn't be having this conversation." His words felt like a slap. The man who once adored me now looked at me with disdain. Tears welled up, but I refused to let them fall. I realized then that the Robert I fell in love with was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. Determined to reclaim my life, I sought legal counsel and filed for divorce. Robert was livid. He accused me of being selfish, of tearing our family apart. "You'll regret this," he spat. "No one will want a single mother. You're nothing without me." The divorce proceedings were grueling. Robert fought for full custody of Lily, painting me as an unfit mother. He hired aggressive attorneys, dug into my past, and tried to exploit any perceived weakness. But I stood firm. I documented everything: the late nights, the neglect, the affair. Friends and neighbors testified on my behalf, vouching for my dedication as a mother and the emotional toll Robert's actions had taken on me. After months of legal battles, the court granted me primary custody of Lily, with Robert receiving visitation rights. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. I had lost the man I once loved, but I gained a newfound sense of self-worth. Starting over wasn't easy. I moved into a modest apartment in Decatur, a far cry from our suburban home. Money was tight, and I had to juggle multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. I worked as a freelance editor during the day, tutored students in English literature in the evenings, and took on weekend shifts at a local bookstore. There were nights I went to bed exhausted, questioning if I had made the right decision. But every time I looked at Lily, saw her peaceful sleeping face, I knew I had. Robert married Claire shortly after our divorce. They moved into a lavish house in Buckhead, flaunting their wealth and happiness on social media. Mutual friends would occasionally update me on their lives, mentioning extravagant vacations, luxury cars, and the birth of their daughter, Emma. I listened politely but kept my distance. I had no interest in reopening old wounds. Years passed. Lily grew into a bright, compassionate young woman. She excelled in school, had a close-knit group of friends, and often spoke of her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. Our bond deepened, forged through shared struggles and triumphs. I eventually secured a full-time position as a senior editor at a reputable publishing house, allowing us a more comfortable lifestyle. We moved into a cozy townhouse, and I even started dating again, cautiously opening my heart to the possibility of love. One evening, as I prepared dinner, there was an unexpected knock at the door. Wiping my hands on a towel, I opened it to find a teenage girl standing in the pouring rain, her clothes soaked, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Emma?" I asked, recognizing Robert and Claire's daughter. She nodded, biting her lip to suppress a sob. "They kicked me out," she whispered. "You're my only hope." I stood there, memories of my own past flooding back. The betrayal, the abandonment, the nights spent crying myself to sleep. I took a deep breath, stepped aside, and said, "Come in, Emma. Let's get you warm and dry." As she entered, I couldn't help but think how life had come full circle. The very people who once dismissed my pleas for help had now cast out their own flesh and blood. And here she was, seeking refuge with the woman they had wronged. Emma was quiet at first. She sat on the edge of my living room couch, her hands wrapped tightly around the mug of hot cocoa I made her. Her clothes were still damp, and I wrapped her in one of Lily's old hoodies. I wanted to ask her 1,000 questions, but I waited. I watched her eyes move around the room, scanning every photo, every shadow, as if looking for something familiar. Maybe peace. Maybe something she'd never had at home. She finally spoke. "Claire slapped me," she said, her voice flat. "She said I was selfish and ungrateful." Dad didn't say anything. He just stood there. Her lips trembled, and for a moment she looked like a scared little girl, not the sharp-tongued teenager I remembered from years back when I'd see her in passing. "What happened?" I asked softly. She took a deep breath and let it all pour out. Claire and Robert had been fighting for months. Robert had been drinking. Claire was always angry. Emma said she often felt like a burden, like she was walking on broken glass. One night, she told Claire she didn't feel safe. Claire snapped, called her names, said she was just like her pathetic real mother, which made my stomach twist. Claire had always tried to erase me from any part of Emma's life, even though I'd never stood in the way. I had stayed silent, let them play happy family. Then the night before she came to me, Emma found a bottle of pills in the bathroom. Claire's. Not prescription. Just sitting there next to a half-empty wine glass. That's when Emma said something she wasn't supposed to say. She told Claire she was scared she'd overdose. Claire exploded, shoved her, slapped her. Robert told Emma she should go cool off at a friend's house, that she was being too sensitive. She packed a bag, grabbed her charger, and ran out. Her friend's mom said she couldn't stay long. That's when Emma remembered my name. As I listened, my heart broke in ways I didn't know it still could. I hated Robert for what he was when I left him, but hearing how he had turned out now, it felt like the final nail in a coffin I thought I'd already buried. I let Emma stay the night. Then 2 nights. Then a week. I called my lawyer after the 3rd day, just to ask questions. Meanwhile, Lily was confused. She had only met Emma once, years ago. But Lily had her father's sharp memory. She remembered how Emma used to treat her when they were little, cold, dismissive, always trying to compete. Now, this girl was sleeping in our guest room, eating at our table, sitting on our couch watching Netflix like nothing had ever happened. One night, Lily pulled me aside. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" she asked. "She's not like us." "She's scared," I said. "She has no one." "She had Dad," Lily replied bitterly. "She chose him. She made fun of you. Of us." That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I knew what she meant. Emma was not the same kind of daughter I had raised. She was rough around the edges, used to privilege and sarcasm and entitlement. But I also saw something else in her: guilt. She started helping me with dinner. She did her own laundry. She apologized to Lily for how she used to act. I didn't know if it was real or just survival. But I saw something cracking in her, like maybe the mask was slipping. Then one morning I found her in the kitchen holding my phone. I had stepped out to get the mail and must have left it unlocked. I wasn't snooping, she said quickly, but you had a message from Dad. I froze. She handed me the phone. I read the text. I know Emma's with you. She can stay. Claire's in rehab. I'm not ready for this. My jaw clenched. I didn't reply. I deleted the message and set the phone down. Emma's eyes filled with tears. He doesn't even care, does he? He never did, I said quietly. That same week, something even worse happened. I got a letter from the school board. Apparently, someone filed a complaint saying I wasn't Emma's legal guardian, that I was harboring her without permission. Emma's face went pale when I showed her. Claire's mom, she whispered. I bet it was her. She's the only one who knew I was here. My hands shook. I didn't want legal trouble. I had fought so hard to build this life. I couldn't let it slip away because of their mess. I called Robert. He picked up, sounded tired, hungover maybe. She's your daughter, I said. You don't even care what happens to her? He sighed. She'll be 18 in a few months. She's always been dramatic. I nearly screamed. I hung up. Lily overheard everything. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. He doesn't deserve any of us, she said. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, a strange car parked across the street. A man in a suit got out and rang my bell. He said he was a private investigator hired by Claire's attorney to check on Emma's welfare. I shut the door in his face, but it was too late. The peace was shattered. Emma was terrified. She wouldn't sleep alone. She kept saying she didn't want to go back, that she'd rather live in a shelter, that she would run away if they forced her. I told her, you're not going anywhere. I'll protect you. I meant it, but I knew something bigger was coming, something that might tear my home apart again. And this time, I wasn't sure love would be enough. 2 weeks after the man in the suit showed up, things started to shift in ways I didn't expect. Emma had begun to calm down. She was going to school again. She helped me cook, cleaned without being asked, even started doing homework in the kitchen while I made dinner, something Lily hadn't done since middle school. I let myself believe maybe, just maybe, we were finding our rhythm. But peace doesn't last long in my life. One Thursday afternoon, Lily came home from school early. I was on a Zoom call, didn't even hear her come in until she slammed the front door so hard it rattled the pictures on the wall. I muted my meeting and ran into the living room. She stood there, holding her phone up with her hand shaking. You need to see this. It was a video, shaky and blurry, of Emma in the school parking lot. She was arguing with another girl. Then the other girl shoved her, and Emma lost it. She lunged at the girl, yelling, pulling her hair, screaming things I couldn't even understand. It ended with 2 teachers dragging her away and someone in the background yelling, she's crazy like her mom. I sat down, stunned. Lily threw the phone on the couch. She said she didn't want drama. She lied. She's still the same. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know the fight happened. Emma got home hours later, dragging her backpack behind her. Her face was swollen on one side. I didn't ask. I just pointed to the couch. Explain. Her voice cracked. She said I was trash. She said I was living with the woman who destroyed her family. I told her she didn't know anything. Then she spit at me. She didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead. Lily didn't say a word, just walked upstairs. That night, I got a call from the school principal. Emma was suspended for 5 days. The girl's parents were threatening to press charges. They said Emma had rage issues, that they had proof she was unstable. The next morning, my car had a flat, a nail in the tire. A coincidence maybe? Then the following day, someone spray-painted homewrecker across my garage door. I called the police. They filed a report, told me they'd drive by more often. But I knew what was happening. Someone wanted Emma gone, and they weren't above dragging me down too. Emma shut down. She barely spoke. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't come out of her room. On the 3rd night, I found her sitting in the bathtub with the water running cold and her clothes still on. She stared at the faucet like it was talking to her. I don't think I belong anywhere, she whispered. Even the people who say they love me end up leaving. I knelt beside her and took her hand. I'm not going anywhere. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes filled with tears, and she broke. That was the first time I held her like a mother. But the peace didn't last. 2 days later, I received a court summons. Claire was petitioning for emergency guardianship. Her attorney claimed I was harboring a minor against the wishes of her legal parents, and that Emma was a danger to herself and others. I nearly dropped the paper. Emma ran to her room and slammed the door when she found out. I knew Claire was out of rehab. I just didn't think she'd come for Emma. I thought she'd moved on. But this wasn't about love. This was about power, about control, about punishing me. I hired a lawyer again, the same one who got me custody of Lily. He read the papers, frowned, and said, "They're serious. You'll need proof. Witnesses. School records. Mental health assessments. We'll fight this, but they're throwing everything at you." I nodded, numb. The next morning, Emma was gone. Her bed empty. Backpack gone. No note. I panicked. I called everyone. No one had seen her. I was about to call the police when a number I didn't know popped up on my phone. I answered. It was Robert. "She's here," he said. "She showed up last night. Said she wanted to try again with her real family." I felt something snap inside me. "You don't get to play dad now," I said. "She's confused," he replied, calm, like nothing mattered. "Claire wants to fix things. We think it's better if Emma stays here now." I couldn't breathe. "She's not a toy you get to return when it's convenient." "She's not yours," he said. I hung up. Lily walked in then, eyes wide. "She left." I nodded. She went back to him. Lily looked down. "You warned her." I did, but it didn't help. And something in my chest felt hollow, like I had just lost a child all over again. 2 days passed. Then 3. On the 4th day, I got another knock at the door. This time, it wasn't Emma. It was Claire. She stood on my porch in full makeup, hair done, clothes expensive and tight. But her eyes were wild. "We need to talk," she said. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Claire stood on my porch with a fake smile stretched across her face, but her eyes, those wild, calculating eyes, gave her away. She wasn't here for peace. I didn't invite her in. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me. She folded her arms. "Emma's back home now. You can stop playing mom." I stayed quiet. Claire's smirk faded. "She told me what you've been saying about me. That I'm unstable. That I hit her. You really want to play that game?" "I'm not playing anything," I said flatly. She came to me. Scared. Alone. "I gave her a roof and food when you threw her out." Claire scoffed. "You turned her against me." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "No. You did that all by yourself." She leaned closer. "She's mine, and I will not let you poison her." "Poison?" I raised my voice. "You mean like how you poisoned her entire childhood? With guilt, with silence, with pretending everything was fine while you and Robert left her to drown." Claire's face twitched. "Don't you dare talk about my family like that." "You mean my former family," I snapped. "The one you helped tear apart." The door behind me creaked open. Emma stood there, barefoot, pale, clutching her phone. Her eyes were wide. Lily stood just behind her. Claire's voice softened in an instant. "Sweetie, come here. We're going home." Emma didn't move. "I saw the papers," she said. "The ones your lawyer filed. You said I needed mental help. That I was dangerous." Claire blinked. "It was just legal language, Emma. We had to make a case." "I was never dangerous," Emma said, voice breaking. "You just didn't want me anymore." Claire reached for her, but Emma backed away. "I heard you, Mom," Emma whispered. "That night, you told Dad I ruined everything. That you should have sent me to boarding school. That I wasn't worth it." Claire went pale. Emma turned to me. "I want to stay here. If you'll still have me." I stepped aside. "Always." Claire stared at us like she didn't recognize either of us. Then her face twisted. "Fine. Let her stay. Let her ruin your life too. You'll see." She turned and stormed down the porch steps. Lily muttered under her breath, "She's always been crazy," then disappeared into the kitchen. I wanted to feel victorious, but I didn't. Robert called later that night. He didn't even try to argue. Just said, "You won." I told him it wasn't a game. He hung up without another word. In the days that followed, everything moved fast. My lawyer filed for temporary guardianship. Emma gave a statement. The school counselor testified. So did Lily. It was messy, loud, emotional. But the court granted it. Emma stayed. And for the first time, she started calling me Mom. Not all the time, but sometimes. When she forgot to be guarded. Lily and Emma didn't become best friends overnight. There were fights. Jealous silences. Passive-aggressive comments. But they were trying. That was more than I ever thought I'd see. The neighbors gossiped. One even left an anonymous note in my mailbox about raising someone else's problem child. I tossed it in the trash. I was proud of Emma because every day she stayed, she healed. Every day she didn't run away was a victory. A month later, we were at Lily's graduation. It was a warm spring day. Families filled the high school lawn. I saw Robert standing off to the side, alone. He looked smaller than I remembered. Less threatening. He didn't come over. Just watched. Emma saw him too. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "He looks sad." "He made his choices," I said. "So did I." After the ceremony, while Lily posed for pictures, Emma turned to me. "You saved me." "No," I said. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a place to land." And that's what we became, a place to land. I won't pretend everything's perfect. We all carry scars. But we're honest now. We fight fair. We show up. The truth is, I never needed revenge. I just needed peace. And I have that now. Robert was right. I did leave. But I never looked back.